Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to this evening's presentation. Global Citizens, How Do You See the World? For the first 5 minutes, we'll be showing you a brief video to spark your interest in the presentation, and then we'll begin with our distinguished guests, our panel speakers, and we'll hopefully have some questions from you in between and at the end of this presentation. Your involvement is expected, but is also welcomed, and your questions are welcomed. So we're happy to answer those for you this evening. We realize this is a cultural event, and we hope to share some of that with you this evening. So without further ado, we'll start the video presentation. statistics. How many of you are aware of some of that that was used in that presentation? Probably not many. So what does it mean? It means, ladies and gentlemen, that this generation right here is living in exponential times. It means that you, those of you sitting in this room, are asked a question. How do you see the world? For many of you, for most of you, you're going to answer that question much differently than the person next to you, or the person sitting behind you, or in front of you. But what I ask you is, how do you see the world? Eicher University defines global citizenship specifically in a strategic plan. This university is dedicated to developing global citizens. So while you are here studying with Upper Iowa University, this is something that we take very seriously as faculty and staff, and something that you will see throughout your education here at this university. We define global citizenship through what you see on the screen. It began from a published work of the Association of American Colleges and Universities. And some of the things that we're going to talk about this evening are described within the document we call our strategic plan. So what is a global citizen? I'm sorry, I have to move around. I'm not a podium speaker. A global citizen, someone who has knowledge of human cultures and the physical and the natural world. What we're talking about here is what you're studying in your general education. The maths, the sciences, the social sciences, your language courses, your humanities courses, your art courses, your intellectual and practical skills, those creative and critical thinking skills that you find inside your classroom, that you find on the athletic field, that you're challenged with through your faculty. Oral and communication skills, teamwork and problem solving all fall under this category. Your personal and social responsibility, your civic knowledge and engagement, your local and your global engagement, intercultural knowledge and competence. If you look around you right now, I guarantee you there are at least 4 or 5 students that are not from the United States sitting in this room. The last component, integrated learning, is taking everything I've just mentioned, combining it together so that you can become specialized in areas when you leave this university, whether it be employment, teaching, working in a business, doesn't matter. The things that you learn, these components of a global citizen, can be taken anywhere on this planet. So how do you see the world? Ladies and gentlemen, when you cross the street, which way do you look? You look left, because that's where the traffic's coming from. If I place you in Hong Kong, where one of our centers is located, where several of our presenters this evening reside and teach for us at Upper Iowa, if you look left, the traffic is coming from your right, and I guarantee you they do not stop. It's interesting to think about. Same is the case in England and many other countries. So how do you look at the world? Are you always looking left? Do you find yourself looking both ways down a one-way street? You may find yourself to be on the path to global citizenship. I'm going to talk briefly because I think it's very important. And it speaks well to this crowd because 1991 was probably a banner year for most of you. How many in the room were actually born in 1991? 1990. Good half of the crowd. Thomas Friedman wrote a book. He called it The World is Flat. You'll find it on many shelves. You'll find it actually in the president's office. We describe the Cold War era as the post-World War II to 1991 and the era of globalization from 91 until this current moment. What's interesting is in the Cold War era, the defining question was, how big is your missile? The defining question right now is, how fast is your modem? If that era was a sport, it would be sumo wrestling. The bigger person who could push you around and get you and jockey you out of the way was a more powerful person. Right now, that sport would be the 100-yard dash. It's not about size, it's about speed. How fast can you make things happen? And that's why the defining symbol is no longer the Berlin Wall like it was in the Cold War era, which separate the First and the Second World. The defining symbol right now is the World Wide Web, or better known as the Internet. That tool represents integration of the world's knowledge available at your fingertips. And there's not one person in this room that today has not accessed the internet, sent a text message, made a phone call. All of that is available through technology that is also implemented into the internet. You saw the slide that talked about the fiber optic cables going down, the communication lines going through, the phone calls that are able to be made. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you see the world? The individuals in this picture, they're not from different countries. They're different colors, different sizes, different shapes. Those people actually are all Americans, American citizens. We're all different colors, sizes, and shapes in this room, but I can guarantee you that not everyone in this room is an American citizen. Global citizens see through those perceptions, see through those prejudices, and are able to accept those because the world is not as large as you think it is. This evening's first speaker is Dr. David Eicher. He comes from Atlanta, Georgia, so don't hold that against him. He's a Southern boy. He likes Coca-Cola. He spent several years in the U.S. Navy. He has a strong telecommunications background, 35 years worth, as a matter of fact. And as you can see on the slide, he was and probably will be in the future an entrepreneur if he decides to take that up again. But he holds several degrees, of which, as you can see, is business administration and a large business administration background, and he does hold a doctorate. As I mentioned before, he is our lead faculty member at the Hong Kong campus for Upper Iowa University. And I'd like to introduce him to you this evening to hear his perspective about global citizens.
Hello, I am also not a podium speaker. Hello, Sydney. Tell everybody where you're from. See? Angola. There's a lot of seats up here in the front row. How come everybody sits in the back? Rhetorical question. All right. What I wanted to talk a little bit about was what is citizenship, and then we'll talk about what that means in the world as far as global citizenship. Well, the pure definition of a citizen is this: active political, social, environment, economic agent with relationships to some nation. So you're all a citizen of some country or some nation. Well, what does global citizenship mean? See, I get the same response that I get in Hong Kong. Nothing. Because the Chinese don't like to ask questions. I can tell you about that later. So, global citizenship means that you're active politically and socially in a particular economic environment, and you're agents in an interdependent world. That means that you're no longer a citizen of one country, you're a citizen that interacts with other citizens of other countries. Okay? Awareness of the world as a global community. How many of you have been out of this country? So quite a few. Was it vacations, or was it for business, or was it for education? All of those things. Did you interact with other people? Because that's what the world is. The world is people. If you interacted with other people, that's a great education in itself. Okay? So, citizenship on a global level, and that's what UIU is talking about. Well, what is UIU's approach to global citizenship? You bring people together, study side by side. I'll talk a little bit about some of the classes we have in Hong Kong. We prepare students to be successful in the 21st century. I can tell you that in the business world, if you study management like they did in the early 1990s and before, you're not going to be as successful in the 21st century. It is a different world. It is a smaller world. People think differently than they used to. You should read the book, The World is Flat. It really doesn't mean it's flat, but it certainly is a smaller world. So, UIU wants you to become an effective global citizen, and there's ways to do that by studying internationally, by traveling internationally, and so forth. That's one of the reasons that UIU's strategic plan is to have centers throughout the world. We have, I believe, 5 in Malaysia, 1 in Singapore, 1 in Hong Kong, several other ones here in this country. The Hong Kong UIU campus, which is the one I'm most familiar with as I live in Hong Kong. I'm also in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta. I have a home in Atlanta. But I live in Hong Kong 10 months out of the year. I have a 627 square foot apartment. Pretty nice compared to the Hong Kong standards. In the Hong Kong campus, there's approximately 400 students, and that student makeup is both working adults and non-working adults, which are full-time day students. There are Chinese students. The majority of them are Chinese. Most of those are from Hong Kong, although there are some mainland Chinese students. We have Indian students, and we have Indonesian students, and many of those have studied in Canada and the United States, but many have not. It is a much different culture, and the education process in Hong Kong, as they grew up, is much different than the education process that you had when you grew up. So we have both day and evening classes in Hong Kong. The evening classes are almost full. That's how fast Hong Kong is growing. The day classes, we're still recruiting many students, and we'd like to get the younger students into the day classes. So we're still recruiting some of those. The majors that we have in Hong Kong are psychology, finance, accounting, and management. We used to have a MIS major, but I'm not sure if it's still MIS or not. We may have changed that. But those are the big ones. The vast majority of students are psychology majors. For some reason, they think that psychology is where they're going to find the most jobs. These are, I don't know if you can see those or not, but those are some students. The Chinese are very good students, but they're not any better than you are. I have heard all the rhetoric for the last 65 years about how great the Chinese were, and certainly they're as smart as anybody else, but they're good students just like you're good students. They're not much different. So that's a bunch of the students. That's our library in Hong Kong. You'll see it's very modern. We're rather proud of the modern furniture and the modern location. Those are two students that are sitting in our little library. Very, very small. Things are not near as big in Hong Kong. That's one of our staff in Hong Kong. And her name is Fanny, by the way, F-A-N-N-Y. It's actually not her Chinese name. Her Chinese name is, I don't know what her Chinese name is, come to think of it. But every Chinese person is given an English name when they're born, by their family. So they all have first English names, but they also have Chinese names. So her name is Fanny. His name is Jake. All the Chinese girls like him, so we put his picture up there. So that's Jake. He is a freshman. And that's another picture of the library. Okay, so living in Hong Kong, what is all that about? And certainly, when I get through, you can ask me questions. Throw things at me. Hong Kong is truly an international city. How many of you have been there? Been to Hong Kong? Just one? One person? I know Dr. Chan has been to Hong Kong. I know Virginia's been to Hong Kong. It really is an international city. Trust me, Genghis Khan is not running around over there anymore. It's very modern. You can find everything there that you can find anywhere else. I see more Rolls Royces every week in Hong Kong than I've ever seen. There are no old cars. All the cars are either BMWs or Mercedes or taxicabs. To move almost 8 million people around the city quickly, they have a very good transportation system. I don't own a car in Hong Kong, don't want one, and don't need one. There is over 1,200 American businesses in Hong Kong. That's just American businesses. How many Australian businesses are there? How many British businesses are there? There's a lot. There's also Chinese businesses, of course. English is spoken by most people because it's a required course for young people. So most young people speak it. Many old people do not. But I have not learned, well, I do speak Chinese, all 2 words. So, but you really don't need it. We teach in English, and you can get along very well in Hong Kong just by speaking English. The culture, it's distinctively Chinese. There's many different things about the Chinese culture. Chris mentioned something, when you looked across the street, they drive on the wrong side of the street, right? Sidney says yes, that's the wrong side of the street. To them, they think we drive on the wrong side of the street, right? So, they will run over you. I don't know who has the right of way and have never bothered to ask. So, it is distinctively Chinese, but remember the British have a large influence in Hong Kong because the British owned Hong Kong until 1997. And Hong Kong has its own laws from mainland China. The only thing that mainland China influences Hong Kong about is military issues and international, what's the word? Diplomacy. Everything else has its own laws in Hong Kong. Those will go away in 2037, and it'll then be part of Hong Kong. What do you think China is going to look like in 2037? What do you think the United States is going to look like in 2037? They're going to look pretty much alike, believe it or not. Okay? You think they're a communist country. They're not. Okay. Lifestyle, it's very busy. They have a place in Hong Kong called Times Square. I should have had a picture of that up here. In this room, if you were in Times Square, there would probably be 1,000 people in here. A lot of people. But it's relaxed. There's many parks. They like their green areas. They like trees, grass. The climate is subtropical. So there's a winter, but it's kind of like it is right here, right now. It's the Hong Kong winter. So if you don't like snow and ice, good place to be. The food, you can get any kind of food in Hong Kong that you like, from any nationality. You'd have to try to find a bad meal in Hong Kong. It's fairly inexpensive. I'm sorry? We don't have food at the school, so it's great. But there's a McDonald's 2 doors down, and I think the school supports McDonald's. So they love McDonald's. The housing in Hong Kong is very expensive, and that's probably one of the drawbacks is that real estate is very expensive. As I said, I have a 627 square foot apartment, very modern, very nice, and but it's about $1,200 US a month for 600 and some square. But I'm by myself, so it's fine. Transportation, the public transportation system is very good. It's clean, it's safe. There's very little crime in Hong Kong. I see women walking down the street at midnight by themselves, and nobody thinks twice about it. So it's a very good environment. Well, if you think about an international career, what does that mean to you? When you think about graduating from college, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Well, again, there's 1,200 U.S. companies in Hong Kong that would probably like to talk to you. Companies like Motorola, IBM, Bank of America, if you like to finance. Those are just 3 of the large ones, and there's many, many others. There's also many other Western companies, and there's also Chinese companies. So there are a lot of opportunities. Hong Kong was not hit quite as hard by the recession as some other locations in the world. There are many opportunities. There's financial industry in Hong Kong, the higher education industry. They like English-speaking teachers. Marketing and sales industries, of course, and the airline industry. Cathay Airlines is headquartered in Hong Kong. We have a student at the Hong Kong campus that's a flight attendant at Cathay. And so that's my discussion about Hong Kong in general. What questions do you have? Huh? Aida did a great job. Or was something else?
Thank you, Dr. Eicher. attention. I did forget to remind that we are live web streaming this. So we have people joining us from probably around the country at our domestic centers, and we'll be recording this for other centers to enjoy the recording for their international business classes. So we appreciate, again, your questions and your participation because it, again, benefits those that are on the live web stream. Our next speaker is Dr. Hassan Zand. Dr. Zand joins us again from the Hong Kong campus. He is an adjunct faculty member. He is originally from Persia, or what we consider today Iran, but both are, I think, appropriate. He holds several degrees, as you can see, a bachelor's in English, 3 master's degrees, and a PhD in linguistics. This gentleman has a very diverse background, spent 2 decades in the United States, 16 years in China and Hong Kong learning and teaching. He has taught students from 15 nationalities, and he speaks 4 languages. Which is quite interesting because if you speak 4 languages, you're considered multilingual. So if you speak 3 languages, what are you considered? Trilingual. If you speak 2 languages, you are bilingual. If you speak 1 language, you're American. At least that's what I'm told. That's what I'm told. Because many of us that study in the U.S. school systems, if I asked you if you studied Spanish for more than 2 years, you'd probably tell me yes, but you could not tell me how to get to the bathroom. Okay, 1 person could. So without further ado, I want to invite Dr. Zand to the stand. Please give me your attention. Dr. Zand.
Please repeat after me. Salam.
Salam.
Excellent. You told me hello in my language, which is Persian. Okay? So you learned 1 word already. Okay. Thank you very much. He forgot to mention to you what my hobby is. My hobby is collecting diplomas and certificates. I want to start with a quotation from a book, a grammar book that we teach here to our ESL students. This year we have 14 ESL students. ESL is English as a second language. For the first time, UIU is doing this. So, and this quotation is by the Millennium Man, Albert Einstein, you all know, but it's not in a physics book or in a book on relativity. It says, joy in looking and comprehending is nature's most gift. And up there I have written, we are part of nature. Yes, we are a big part of the environment. I want to talk about this now. This brings to our attention 3 questions. The first question is it joyful to look at each other and mutually understand one another? And this question entails another question. The second one says, if it is, how can we develop this multilateral understanding among ourselves? And finally, it boils down to this last 3rd question, which says, what is the role of culture in understanding people? I will adopt 3 approaches in order to respond to this 3 questions. First, the reality at UIU campus is one approach. Another is the story of a college called United World College. And the 3rd one is my own life experience. Well, UIU's present status, it's got diverse population. We have people of different types of backgrounds on this campus. 45 of our students are international students. That means that 15% of our population on this campus is international students. There is a multicultural variety here, a variety of faculty, staff, and students of different cultural backgrounds. If you include all other campuses, I believe that the number of international students outnumbers the number of American students at UIU. Multiracial. This campus and the whole campuses all around the world, UIU campuses, they have a variety of races and different backgrounds of racial history, and if we understand that races do not have any biological background in terms of superiority or inferiority, we have to understand that, okay, with whatever race we are equal in terms of basic intelligence, so that you would help us in order to, from whatever background we are, to boost our intelligence and understanding. Another important aspect is interfaith-based. This campus, these campuses of UIU are interfaith-based. We have people of different kinds of religions. We have a lot of Buddhists among us. We have a lot of Christians. We have quite a number of Muslims. And we have people who do not believe in regular beliefs, but they have their own system of beliefs. We also are international in terms of the fact that this campus, UIU campuses, altogether represent 20 different countries from 5 continents. So this is one reality. This is not an answer to the question, but it is a reality that we have to deal with, and we have to take advantages from this reality. Now, I want to talk about the United World College. We all know about the First and Second World War. We know about the Cold War. And I want to talk about this gentleman called Kurt Hahn, who was an educationalist. He was a German educationalist. After the World War, he thought, well, it's not going to work. We need some peace. We need something better than war. And he is one of those rare educationalists who was also rich. So he started a school called the United World College. His philosophy was this: if you want to settle down peace in the mind of the people or future leaders, you better help them come from different cultural backgrounds, political backgrounds, geographical backgrounds, live together in a college, learn together in a college, so that the understanding would flourish. And these people are those people who are, because they are very well selected, they will be leaders of the world, and later on we will have a better world. Today, the number of United World Colleges is at this time 12. One of them is in the United States. The first one was established in England. I want to show you this picture. Is the picture of the campus of this college. This college offers only baccalaureate. It's only 2 years. Usually students at the last year of high school come to this college. And the one in Hong Kong has students from 81 different countries. I teach there as a part-time job. I teach only 16 hours per year. And can you guess how many students do I have? How many? Okay, only one this time. Because there is only one student from Iran, and I teach him his own culture in comparison with the culture that he is in. So this school spends a whole lot of money and gives a lot of scholarships to people because it has a good financial foundation, and 99% of the students later on get full scholarships going to different countries, mostly Western countries. Now, I would like to talk about this philosophical argument, actually logical argument, following this. The reason why this college was established was actually, as I said, peace. So look at these 3 L's. Philosophy of 3 L's. Premise 1, living together. Premise 2, learning together. Premise 3, loving others. And the conclusion is peace. So if we can have this in our campus, it means one of the big problems, one of the best goals of humanity is reached in order to settle down the problems of violence in this world, the problems of crimes, and so on and so forth. So there is a reason why UIU is looking for people of different cultures, of different countries. One reason, I believe, is peace. Now, I want to talk about myself, because I would be an example of an international educator among you, and I want you to know me so that we can be better friends. In order to know me, you have to know my culture. I want to display a couple of videos from my culture. The first one is from my city, and it is 2 minutes. Please pay attention to it this way. There is if you want to introduce culture, one aspect of culture is architecture. It is a building in my city. It is from a mosque. And at that time, this building is 400 years old. And the architect of this building tried to make it global. So look at the ceiling and a pond which is star-shaped with the design. It's a second. Dancing. Good. I'll show you another one. Please pay attention to the harmony of the body, the arm, the hand, and the music. Go ahead. party, and you know that in Islamic Republic of Iran, just having these kind of discos were all closed after the revolution, and having these open dance salons and dancing halls, ballrooms are all illegal. Therefore, people have their happiness and cultural events mostly in their homes. I just wanted to share this with you so that you will be familiar. Now you know something about the culture that I come from. I want to tell you a little more about it. You see different kind of pictures here. There are two carpets here, two cats there. Have you ever heard of Persian carpets? Yeah. How about Persian cats? Yeah. All right. There are a number of things that Persians are very well known about it.
Do they make the carpets out of cats?
I think, well, they sometimes make cats out of the carpets. I mean, the other way around. Well, because they both have good hooves, okay? So the left one is silk, the right one is wool, and the other two things that Iran or Persia is known for is dates and pomegranates, as well as pistachios. These are pomegranates. It's called the fruit of the heaven, and it was grown in Iran only. It is very good for health. It's antioxidant. And okay, now this is about the context. When I want to know about someone, it's a good idea to know about his culture, his language, and his family. I want to talk about myself and my family. I have a sister in Minnesota. I was with her last week. A brother in Vancouver, Canada. A sister in Isfahan, Iran. A brother in Kerman, Iran. A nephew in Denver. Another in New Jersey. A niece in Minneapolis. Another in Rochester. And the youngest niece lives in London. I'm telling you about the reality of the world. I am not the only person like that. There are millions of people who are like that these days. Having a reunion for us, complete reunion, is almost not impossible, but we have virtual reunions and sometimes what I call sub-reunions, reunion of subgroups of the family, of the extended family. My son is in Kansas City, my elder daughter is in Los Angeles, my Chinese wife and my daughter and I live in Hong Kong. What is that? Okay. The last thing I want to tell you about myself, as I said, I want to present myself as a piece of reality for all of us, that we have to deal with multiculturalism, and multiculturalism is not a vision for future, it's a reality, it's a process that we are all going through. So I want to talk about this last slide here. I am from immigrant parents, and well, I was born and raised in Iran. I had life experience in England, almost 2 decades in the US, 4 years in China, over a decade in Hong Kong at UIU, and I have never been a tourist per se. In these places I have had to work, I have had to experience and live with other people. Nothing is more joyful than experiencing people of different culture, but with a positive and accepting attitude. That's all I have to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zand. A true testament of diversity, Dr. Zand's background, his life, and it's important that if we talk about global citizens, that we experience some kind of culture. This presentation hopefully is going to expose you more to more than one culture tonight, but I thought it was important that Dr. Zand share some of his life and his experience. Our next presenter is Mr. Redmond Humphrey, and I'm very happy to have Mr. Redmond Humphrey at the presentation table today. He is a wonderful faculty member right here on the Fayette campus. Originates from Nicaragua. He has spent his time as an assistant professor here at Upper Iowa. He has a BA in urban economics. He also holds an MBA. As you can see, he helped develop the business division for a university in Nicaragua. He has taught multiple years at the Hong Kong campus. Hopefully you're seeing some connections here about our global campuses. He has received the Best Paper Award for Global Business Strategy Track, which is a very, very prestigious award. And more importantly, that may affect many of you in this room as you develop your majors, as you change your majors and decide on where you want to go as you leave Upper Iowa and graduate. He was instrumental in developing the UIU International Business major. So we're very excited to have him here, and please welcome to the podium Mr. Redmond Humphrey.
Thank you, Chris. One of the things that I believe is very important for you, graduating class of 2013, is that you should take every opportunity that you have to acquire skills that you need that will make you culturally literate. I'm going to take a little different approach, perhaps maybe a little bit more personal. I'm going to use my experience, part of my education that I think was validated in the sense that after I got my MBA, I went and worked for the investment banking industry. I spent 10 years. I was very successful as an investment banking individual, basically working with raising capital for private ventures and working with venture capitalists, things like that. After 10 years, I basically got burned out. I decided I wanted to try to do something else. Economic development for a number of years. But then I realized there's something that was missing. My MBA did not really prepare me sufficiently so that I could basically participate in many of these multicultural discussions. I had thought that focusing on the quantitative aspects of my education was the most important aspect. And then I realized that being quantitatively prepared was not sufficient for me to really understand some of the nuances, some of the things that were taking place in the discussions, in the negotiations. I participated in negotiations in Latin America with Brazilians, Argentinians, Mexicans. In Asia, I did with the Chinese, Taiwanese, Koreans, and Japanese. And in each one of these cases, I realized that there was something missing. I had to go and educate myself. Because I think what happened was that the curriculum at that time did not incorporate that much in terms of an international education. This is why I say being culturally literate, it is not just an option, it is an imperative. It's an imperative. You want to be successful, you want to live here, get a good job, a good opportunity to be successful. We all want to be successful. But you know what? I think deep down within ourselves, what we want to do is to be at peace with ourselves. Be at peace with ourselves. When we are successful, that is part of the equation. We need to be at peace with ourselves also. Understanding the context. When I first came to the U.S., 2 weeks into my undergraduate program, with the this event, and basically hosted by families in Illinois. And I was in line waiting to get up to the table for the meal. This lady beside me said to me, she said, "You have to taste this cookie. I made this cookie." So I took a bite of it. It tasted very good. And then she said, immediately, "I made it from scratch." I didn't know if I wanted to swallow or I wanted, what was that? Scratch meant this. This is the context. I have taken what she has said basically out of context. Learning English when I go, okay, scratch meant that you know, something ate you, your body ate you scratching. And someone making something out of it. My first experience with context, understanding the context in which communication exchange is taking place. Determine what you want. Have you worked on your roadmap? When you leave here in May 2013, what do you want to take away with you? What are your goals? The objectives that you have? What are the desires, the aspirations that you have? I'm here again trying to encourage you to make sure that an international component to your education is also included. It will serve you well. We often encounter challenges. We encounter problems. I think it's important for us to understand that when we face problems, obstacles, we should try and redefine those obstacles and those problems into some type of, into a language that will allow our brains to help us come up with a solution. Redefine it, redefine it. It is very important because if you ever have the responsibility to be away from home in a different culture, having to come up with ideas, you need to be resourceful. You need to be able to think. You need to be able to put things into different perspective, again, different contexts, so that you'll be able to come up with that solution. What would it take? When you're confronted with an obstacle, problem, ask yourself, what would it take? Let's assume that you're playing football or any sports. You want to maintain your eligibility. You need to keep your grades up. What would it take? Framing that obstacle in that context basically allows you to come up with a solution that is going to be helpful to you. I think it's very important that we try to develop the habit of reframing obstacles, ideas, and things in a manner that will allow you to engage the most reliable source that you have, which is your brain, to be a faithful companion with this solution. What would it take? What would it take for you to be successful? Have you asked yourself that question? What would it take to achieve the goals and the objectives that you're searching for? Thank you.
Thank you, Redmond. Any questions for Mr. Humphrey? We good so far? Yeah, we're good. We move to a very, I think, special moment in the presentation because we actually get to hear from one of your peers, one of our actual students. You've heard from faculty members. You hear from faculty members in your classrooms every day. Not every day do you get to listen to one of your peers talk about a wonderful international experience. Alisha Kilburg comes to us from Sabula, Iowa. She's an elementary education major, and in the fall of 2008, she studied abroad in Sydney, Australia. She was one of the first of 4 that studied abroad in the fall of 2008, and she's here tonight to share her experience with you. She's also here to talk about some of the things that she does with our Office of International Programs as our work study. She is a team player in development of what we have as the Global Peacock Express newsletter. But more importantly, and those of you sitting in this room that have interest, and as you pursue your education here at Upper Iowa, she is actually one of the co-recipients of the first ever Upper Iowa University Global Citizenship Award. So we're very proud to have her here tonight to tell you about her experience in Sydney, Australia, hopefully to spark your interest in studying abroad, but also spark your interest in developing yourself as a global citizen. So ladies and gentlemen, Alisha Kilburg.
Hey, I'm going to be different. From looking at pictures of scenery, surfing, and kangaroos, my desire to visit Australia only grew. When I started considering the option to study abroad, I knew exactly where I wanted to go. My name is Alisha Kilburg. I'm from Sabula, Iowa, and I'm a major in early childhood education. Important steps to study abroad are first, talk with your parents. It's not like you're leaving for the weekend or a couple weeks. They might start to worry about you after a couple months. The second is to contact our Office of International Programs. This is found in the professional building on the 3rd floor. Chris Sanders is one who helped me with my planning. His room is 308. In the office, I found individuals who are very helpful. Remember that this is your experience, so it's your responsibility to make sure things are being completed. If you are not responsible here, you will not be responsible halfway around the world. I will admit that this is a very stressful process, but it's nothing that can't be done. Getting a student visa and passport is also very important. This can take a while to be processed, so it's one of the first things that should be accomplished. Sydney. It started with the longest flight of my life, almost 18 hours. From Sabula to Chicago, and then to Los Angeles, I went from a population of 670 people to 4.4 million. The time difference was 15 hours. For example, at 7:48 p.m. in Chicago on the 13th, it's 10:48 a.m. in Sydney on the 14th. It is important to meet with your academic advisor to see what classes are needed. Any major is welcome to study abroad. I chose Macquarie because their study abroad program offers international students the opportunity to modify their own experience, their own program, and still receive full credit at their home university. Macquarie was a huge step for me. Macquarie had 30,000 students on campus, and Upper Iowa has only 900. This is also why I chose Macquarie, because I've always wanted to see what it was like going to a larger school. I graduated with 20 students, so Upper Iowa is a step for me. I learned that a small school is where I need to be. Learn their culture. Immersing yourself into culture is key. I took a class that was called Indigenous Studies. This class taught me Australian history while I was living there. The top left picture, 2 Aboriginal men took me and my group out into the wilderness, and we became one with the earth during a ceremony before we went out on our hikes. The top right is later that day we ate kangaroo for lunch. The bottom picture is an Aboriginal man playing his didgeridoo. This was my apartment complex that I lived in with 3 other Americans from different parts of the U.S. Our apartment had a living room, kitchen, laundry facilities. There are other choices. Again, it is your responsibility to figure out what is best for you. Located was the main bus line for convenient access to downtown Sydney, and it was a short walk to the shopping center where I could get groceries and clothes and where all my money went. Public transportation did get frustrating at times, but it was a learning experience. No car, you had to learn and be patient with the system. This can get expensive. It was $5 every time I rode into the city, and at $5 every time I rode back. My uni did have discounts, however. UIU. How UIU has prepared me to become a global citizen. Upper Iowa has opened many doors for me. First, my study abroad experience, where I made friends from all over the world. Then I caught the bug. Right when I got back in December, I was already looking for new things to do. I'm leaving in January for an internship in Germany, where I will be working on a military base with daycare and preschool kids. When I get there, I hope to travel as much as I can. What can I do when I get back? After I get my major, maybe teach abroad. I have learned that I have many options in life. Look outside your comfort zone and learn to think beyond national borders. I received the Global Citizenship Award last spring, and I was not expecting it. It made me and my friends and family very proud. Ways that can help you become nominated for this award are: demonstrate outstanding dedication and leadership while promoting global awareness around the Fayette campus. Having tremendous plans that will help and prepare you and your fellow students around you outside of your home culture. Continue to promote awareness of global citizen through daily interaction with students, faculty, and staff. Working with international students has helped me grow as a person. 2 international students and I created the first UIU International newsletter last year. Most study abroad programs will provide you with multiple activities to participate in. How UIU made me a global citizen. How study abroad makes you a global citizen. These are examples of me stepping outside of my comfort zone. From climbing the Sydney Harbor Bridge to a surf camp, I did things that I could never experience in small-town Iowa. Through my program, I had the opportunity to see the Sydney Orchestra in the Opera House and go to a Sydney Swans footy game. One of my favorite days in Sydney was the first time I saw a kangaroo. We have many study abroad providers here at UIU. Choose whatever sounds best for you. No matter where you go, I think study abroad is one of the greatest opportunities a student can take during their college career. Even a bad experience is a learning experience. You are accountable for making it memorable. Our international fair is this Friday from 10 to 2, where all of the providers, including myself, will be to answer any questions. I hope to see you all there.
It's a wonderful, wonderful testimony about how you can go from small town, rural Iowa, and see the world. I doubt that when Alisha started at Upper Iowa, she knew that she would have the opportunities that are available to her. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce myself to you. Not that I like to talk about myself, but I do want to share a few things about what Upper Iowa can do for you before we end tonight. As I said, I'm not a podium speaker. My name is Chris Sanders. I'm the Executive Director for International Programs. As everyone else has shared where they're from, I will share myself. I'm really not from anywhere, but places I have lived are Texas and Germany and Kentucky. I labeled myself an Army brat. There's a lot of people in my life that would testify to the brat aspect of that. I've never lived in one city longer than 5 years in my entire life. And just to give you an idea, Germany is about 1/3 of my lifetime, the years I've lived there. I did 3 high schools in 4 years. 2 of those high schools were in Germany. How many of you went to the same high school all 4 years of your life? Very many of you. How many went to 2? Anybody go to 3? How many of you had 4 high schools every single year, different high schools? So some of us can identify with going to different high schools and having to change and adapt ourselves to make new friends. My education, my bachelor's degree is in sports medicine, exercise science. I do have an MBA. I've traveled to 12 different countries, and I've worked in higher education for about a little over 6 years. So, Alisha, cut to the chase. What's your comfort zone? Comfort zone probably is whatever's around you right now, what you're accustomed to, what you're used to. A lot of us have larger comfort zones than some other people around you. Give a good example of a comfort zone. As I said, some people's are larger than others. But once you put on your comfort zone, sometimes it's very difficult to get out of. And a lot of us don't want to get out of our comfort zone. Because our comfort zone is what it is. It's comfortable. It's here to protect us from everything that's outside of the comfort zone. Things that might hurt us, things that might be a little bit different, things that we're afraid of. Yeah, this looks a little silly. But what's silly is the fact that many of you in this room are afraid to step outside of this comfort zone and experience things that may be a little bit uncomfortable for you. Talk to someone that may not look like you. Talk to someone who does not have the same language as you, that may have a different accent than you, that may be a different color than you. And in today's world, that's something that we should be able to shed very quickly, and especially at Upper Iowa, because we have opportunities. Post the photo out. We have opportunities here for you to step outside of your comfort zone. And it's difficult, just like it's about to be difficult for me to get out of this box. So let that be an encouragement, because I really was expecting to fall. While you're here at Upper Iowa, please step outside of your box. Step outside of your comfort zone. There are so many wonderful opportunities that you have here. There are open windows of opportunities that you have here to experience becoming a global citizen. I think this is actually Dr. Eicher breaking back into his house. I'm not really sure. But the windows are open for you here at Upper Iowa. Upper Iowa's global emphasis is encompassed in some of these points that I've listed here. Our global campuses that have been mentioned in Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Singapore. Our courses and curriculum, in particular international business major, all encompass global emphasis. Activities and athletics can be found through my office, Office of International Programs, the Louise Scott's office, the Office of Student Development, and can be found through international student athletes that we have here on the campus. Opportunities for you to interact with people outside of your comfort zone. The career opportunities and internships, Alisha is a prime example of how real it is to be able to leave college and gain an internship that is somewhere outside of the United States. Carla Gavin works for the Career Development Office. She can help you find these internships. She's not going to hand them out like candy, but she can definitely equip you with the skills that you need to find careers outside of the United States and also within the United States. And my office can also help you find internship opportunities that encompass affiliate providers in different countries. Student interaction. We do actually have 62 international students on this campus right now. Some are studying at the undergraduate level, some are studying at the ESL, English as a Second Language level. But that's not also including our various international students that are at our centers here in the United States and also internationally. Technology has become a flattener. We talked about how the world was flat through Thomas Friedman's book. Technology flattens the world because you are now able to interact with friends through Facebook. How many of you logged on to Facebook today? and even on your phone, you've logged on to Facebook. You can have friends in Malaysia, you can have friends in Germany, anywhere in the world you can connect to them and talk to them. Right now we have 3 individuals. One is from OSD, Daryl Grove, who you've probably met before. 2 are from my office. They're in Belize, and they're doing research so we can conduct a service learning project in Belize with St. John's College that many of you will have the opportunity to participate in during your spring break in 2010. So I encourage you, if you have interest in that, to participate there as well. And of course, Alisha touched on study abroad opportunities that are various and vast through our office, and Friday again will be our fair. So ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude our presentation, and we'd be happy to ask if you have any questions, we'll entertain those as well. For those that are in attendance tonight, we will have some door prizes that will be given away. We'll have your names and we'll send you an email. So if you attended tonight, then you're eligible for a door prize. Won't tell you what those are right now, but we do appreciate you coming and being attentive. Yeah, you're happy about that, right? Yeah. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, before you leave here, please understand the people represented here, Mr. Humphrey, Dr. Eicher, Dr. Zand, Ms. Kilburg, and myself, want to be resources for you to help you develop yourself as a global citizen. Upper Iowa is dedicated to developing you to be leaders in today's society. In order to do that, you need to have an emphasis outside of your comfort zone, outside of your box. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.